Pray for me as I try to recite it. 50 years ago, a great American in whom symbolic shadow we stand, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree would come as a great beacon light of hope for millions of Negro slaves who've been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It would come as the joyous daybreak to end a long night of captivity. But 100 years later, we must face the tragic fact that the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So, we've come today to dramatize an appalling condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note in which every American would fall after. This note was a promise that every man would be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as its people of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro a bad check, which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the vast vaults of opportunities of this nation. So, we've come to cash this check. A check that will give us upon the man the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We've also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. Go ahead. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of graduate. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valleys of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time open the doors of opportunities to all of God's children. Now is the time to lift our nation up out of the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment or to underestimate the determination of the Negro. The sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not end until there's an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those that say that we needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwind of revolts will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until that great day of justice emerges. But there is one thing that I must say today. To my friend that stands on the wrong threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our right to privilege, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever continue our struggle on the high plains of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical forms with souls. The marvelous humility that has engulfed the Negro community today must not lead us to distrust all white people. For some of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, has come to realize that their destiny is tied up to our destiny. And that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot turn around. And we cannot walk alone. And as turn around. There are those asking some of the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels or the highways or the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote, and a Negro in New York feels that he has nothing for which to vote. No, we're not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Yes. I am not unmindful of the fact that some of you come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you came straight from narrow cells. Some of you come from areas where your quest for freedom has left you battered by the storms of persecution and shattered by the winds of police brutality. You have been veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unarmed suffering is redeemed. So, go back to Alabama. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of the northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will change. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. For I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of all the difficulties and frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the truth we love us creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day the state of Mississippi, a desert state, sweltering in the heat of injustice and oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream today. I have a dream that my 4 little children will be able to live in a nation where they'll not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream. I have a dream that the state of Alabama, whose governor's lips are presently dripping with the words of exposition and nullification, will be transformed into a situation where little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and girls and walk together as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that every valley should be exalted. Every hill and mountain should be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord should be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith in which I return to the South. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountains of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to fight for freedom together, knowing that we will be free. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with a new voice. My country, tears of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. And when my fathers died, and at the pilgrims cried, on every mountainside, let freedom ring. And you know what? If America is to become a great nation, this must take place. So, let freedom ring from the prodigious peaks of New Hampshire, and the mighty mountains of New York. Let it ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, and the snow-capped mountains of Colorado. Let it ring from the peaks of California. But not only that, let it ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia, and look out in Mount Tennessee. Let it ring from every hill and mole hill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. Every state, every state. I tell you. spiritual. Create